Thanks for coming and joining me in the video. I'm going to walk you through a brand new Cubase Pro template for use with East-West's Forbidden Planet library. If you're subscribed to the Composer Cloud or you purchased this library in a recent sale, then this project template will get you up and running very quickly. First of all, let's take a look at how I've set things up, and then I'd like to talk to you about how I've balanced the individual patches for the library. When opening up this project template for the first time, you'll notice there are a number of folders to the left. You have a master folder called Simps, and then inside of this master folder, you'll have Forbidden Planet. Inside of the Forbidden Planet folder, you'll see a set of subfolders containing all the different patches from the library. And these are all organized in library order. When expanding one of the folders, you'll notice there are a number of instrument tracks that I've pre-disabled. Now, this is so when you open up the project, A, it's not going to suddenly suck up a load of system resources, and B, it's just going to allow you to cherry pick the stuff you do want to work with and keep the stuff you don't want to work with disabled in the project, so you have more control over RAM and CPU. To start working with the patches, you just simply select the ones you want, right-click, and then go to Enable Selected Tracks. If you're on a Mac, you need to hold Command and then click. Cubase will then activate the disabled instrument tracks, and each instrument track has a single instance of Opus, and inside each instance is a patch from the library. The beauty of this is that you can start composing straight away, and you don't have to worry about searching through and loading your own patches. Let's take a look at the mixer, because what I want to do is explain to you how I've actually balanced all of the patches inside of the library. Now we're in the mixer, something I want to show you is how I've actually gone through every single patch inside of Forbidden Planet and done my best to balance the different samples that are used for each patch. Now, the reason why I've done this is because as I was building the template, something I noticed was the mixer setup. For every single patch inside of Forbidden Planet, there was a compressor on the master fader with the exact same setting being used. I think the ratio was 20, which was the maximum for the SSL compressor in Opus. And then the threshold was like 11.2, I believe. And then the release was at auto. Now, the problem I had with it is this. Some of the samples that are used in Forbidden Planet can be consistent in terms of volume, and some of them can be inconsistent. Some can be really loud and some can be really quiet. And what the compressor was acting as was not as a compressor to tailor the sound and make the individual patch as a whole sound better, but it was used as a volume leveler. And what you would find is that some of those samples for the groups that are really loud would hit the compressor really hard, and you'd be getting limiting basically because it's just literally slamming the thing. And the trouble with this is that it really crushes the life out of that sample and takes away from it. And when you then further go to do any processing in Cubase, if you want to use your own plugins, you're just going to deteriorate the sound even more. So what I've done, as I said, is gone through the entire template, and I've removed the compressor from the master fader, set the mixer faders at unity apart from the effects sends. They're still at their original positions. And then what I've done is use a combination of the pre-gain in Cubase and also some of the tools inside of Opus, so the limiter, the leveling amp, and the limiting amp to adjust the volume of the different groups so they're more balanced and more consistent. Now, you will find for some of the patches, I'm not using any limiting at all. There's nothing going on. I'm just using the limiter to adjust the volume. And then with other patches, you might find that I'm doing some light processing on them, just a light, tiny little bit of limiting to tame some of those random peaks that happen, or using the leveling amp to help try and make it a little bit more consistent. But I haven't done anything too drastic because obviously you can treat it better inside of your DAW with all your different plugins. Now, the target volume that I've aimed for is around minus 12 dB, give or take a dB, okay? And this will vary depending on what patches you're playing. So if you're playing patches that are more legato, then they'll automatically be around that minus 12 dB mark, no matter what you change between using the mod wheel for your groups. For things that are more chord-based, so pads, if you play a single note, it will be around roughly minus 18. If you start playing chords, like 3, 4, 5 note chords, then it'll take it up to around that minus 12 dB mark. Now, just to give you an example of this, I'm going to select all of these patches here, go back to the mixer, turn this way down because I just want you to look at the signal, and then just play a 5-note random chord. Now you'll see we're on group A at the moment that it's fairly consistent. Obviously there's certain things that peak more than others, but then you can treat that with your plugins if you want to. But listen and watch to what happens when I switch from group A to group B using the mod wheel. That's going to save you a bunch of headaches when it comes to mixing, because obviously you're not going to have a signal that's constantly changing going into your plugins or your insert chain. So, for example, if a patch for Group B made it significantly louder, it's not going to over-trigger the plugins that you've got on the chain that are applying processing. So it's just to make things easier for you to deal with any issues when it gets to the mixing stage. So that's what I've done. When it comes to routing, there are 2 visibility configurations inside of the mixer which are pre-created. The channels instrument configuration will show you the individual audio channels for any tracks that you have active in the project. So that means you can apply processing to the individual arpeggio patches that we have activated. And then if we want to then control the entire group for all of the arpeggio related patches, then we can just use the fader here to do so and apply some group processing. The groups or instrument groups are then routed to a master group. So if you do want to do some final processing, then you can. The option is there. Finally, this comes with track presets with all of those lovely settings pre-applied. So if you're working on a project and you suddenly think, oh, I just need a couple of instruments from Forbidden Planet loaded in and I can route them however I want, then all you would need to do is go to your presets folder, track presets, multi, and then you can just drag and drop whatever it is you want into the project. Obviously, you will need to apply your routing and add anything to folders or reverb sends, all that stuff, but the tracks are there and ready to go. Now, the location on where to save your track presets so they appear in the Cubase mixer is provided in the user manual, so make sure you read that. Also, I recommend reading it because you may find you may need to batch reconnect your libraries in order for the patches to preload, but there is a troubleshooting section inside of the manual to help guide you through this. Hopefully, you will find this useful and it will save you some time when working with Forbidden Planet. And as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for your custom. And if you have any issues, head over to the website and get in touch with me directly.